Kiev stresses that stopping the Kremlin's imperial policies is only possible by nipping Russian ambitions in the bud. President Vladimir Zelensky has conveyed that Russia is planning global destabilization, which Ukraine will not allow. It is not worth offering Ukraine compromises on conscience, sovereignty, territory and independence. If Russia wants to end the war, let it prove it with actions. There will be no Minsk III agreements that Russia will break as soon as they are concluded. I am convinced that it is now that the destructive Russian war must end and can be ended. Our conditions are radiation and nuclear security, food security, energy security, release of all prisoners and deportees, implementation of the United Nations Charter and restoration of Ukraine's territorial integrity and world order, withdrawal of Russian troops and cessation of hostilities, return of justice, ecological security, prevention of escalation and setting conditions for ending the war. The G20 summit is underway in Bali, which commentators say could be the toughest ever. Among the topics dominating the meeting is the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Indonesia withdrew an invitation for President Vladimir Putin to attend under pressure from other G20 members.
That will have in the margin of this G20 meeting in order to try to convince all the partners of the G20 to put more pressure on Russia. Because the UN Charter, the principles of sovereignty, the idea that it's not acceptable to try to change borders by force.
The unanimity in condemning the Russian invasion is a very positive harbinger. The effects of this war are projecting the entire world order in terms of hunger and energy prices. The United Nations General Assembly has adopted a resolution to create a damage registry and compensation mechanisms for Ukraine. Yesterday's resolution stated that Russia must bear the legal consequences of all its actions, including reparations for the damage it has caused. This is Kiev's first step towards war reparations.
Accounts of atrocities committed by Russians in the occupied territories, murder, rape, torture, forced deportation, looting, they all speak for themselves. Millions of Ukrainians have been forced to leave their homes and seek shelter elsewhere. Ukraine will have the daunting task of rebuilding the country.
The draft resolution is illegitimate. It is an attempt to legalize something that cannot be legalized from the point of view of current international law. The West is trying to prolong and exacerbate the conflict, in addition, at the expense of the Russian treasury.
But only one country, Russia, is responsible for the damage to Ukraine. And it is absolutely right, as this resolution sets out, that Russia pay for that damage.
Meanwhile, in southern Ukraine, locals continue to celebrate the liberation of Kherson. The seizure of the city is strategically crucial. The Ukrainians have thus gained control of the only land route to the Crimea, the mouth of the Dnieper, and have also secured a logistical advantage. Since Friday, the Ukrainians have occupied more territory in the region, including the Kinburn Peninsula on the east bank of the river.
On the 11th of November, we saw this sun, and I understood that something changed in the air. We didn't know that our Ukrainian army is coming, because we don't have water, we don't have light, we don't have any connection, no mobile, no Wi-Fi, nothing.
Russian troops blew up part of a TV station's broadcasting system and damaged power infrastructure during their retreat from Kherson. Ukrainian forces are demining the area and working to stabilize the situation. Most people in southern Ukraine are still without access to electricity and water. Russian propaganda has discouraged me from watching TV. Even the elderly have learned to use the internet because of it. Fortunately, these monsters will never enter the city again. As for TV, the propaganda was at such a level that I didn't feel like watching television and getting any information from there. During the counteroffensive in the Kherson region, Ukrainian forces effectively cut off the Russians' path of retreat by destroying the Dnieper River crossings. To this end, the Ukrainians made a strategic strike against the Antonov Bridge. The Russians, after withdrawing their forces across the river, also shelled the bridge to slow down the Ukrainian army's progress. The Russian occupation of Kherson led to many problems. Russians robbed local doctors of medical equipment. Because of this, many left. They even did this to ordinary people. They loaded everything onto these big trucks. They looted, took people's cars. I saw it myself. Yesterday, Ukrainian troops entered Novokharhovka, where there is a hydroelectric plant and a dam. Blowing up the dam was being considered as one of the Russian tactical scenarios. Flooding the area would slow down the advancing counteroffensive. Ukrainian sappers will soon secure the dam, which was mined by the Russians, and thus provide security in the area.